and good night, and welcome to the Amateur Otaku Podcast, the official anime podcast of Revenge of the Fans. How's everybody doing out there? This is Brandon Alvarado, one of your hosts, and as usual, I am accompanied by the one, by the only, by the mad Isaac Wolf. What's up, man?
Slap me some wings and call me a drive, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Isaac, how you been, man?
Like usual. Crazy, tired, crazy. The
That's a
usual. Good...
I like how you balance life. You know, madness, good madness, with a little bit of crazy. As usual.
Yeah.
So, guys, welcome to the Amateur Otaku, the official anime podcast of Revenge of the Fans. We have a hell of a show for you guys, and not just because we're back together to talk anime, which is what we love. We love sharing this passion that we have on this great medium with you guys, but because we have fulfilled a dream, a goal, a desire today, is that we have a guest, but not just any guest, a very particular guest. A certain boy has joined our myths. I would even say it's a fanboy. Isaac, who has joined us today?
Our very own editor-in-chief, Mario Robles.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Mario Francisco Robles, MFR here with you. And I am happy to check out the Amateur Otaku Podcast.
Welcome. Whoa, the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, sure. So, I it's interesting. I know we're going to get into all this stuff, but like anime is not a thing that I like know about or do at all. So when you invited me to be on the show, I'm like, this ought to be interesting. But thankfully, you picked a really good subject. You picked a really good sort of entry level anime for me to hop on and check out and discuss with you guys today. So let's do this.
Yes, let's do this. So Mario, before we jump in, we're gonna talk about a very particular show that we love. It's called My Hero Academia. It's an anime. It's a manga that's very superhero centric in terms of its philosophy, in terms of the themes that it takes, and because literally it has to do with superheroes, that has taken anime by storm, and is beloved pretty much unanimously by everybody that reads manga and by everybody that actually watches anime, whether on Hulu, Funimation, all different channels that actually stream it. But before we jump in and go all mad in all things My Hero Academia, tell us a little about yourself. What's your relationship with this world that we know as geek culture that anime is apart from? Talk to us a little bit about you. How did you come in contact with heroes and all this madness?
It all happened in a movie theater during a matinee performance of Superman 4: The Quest for Peace in 1987. I was sitting in the Elmwood Theater in Elmhurst, Queens, beside my mother, and she brought me to see Superman 4. Up until that point, I'm sure I had maybe seen some other Superman-related things on TV, or I used to play with the toys, but this was the first movie I remember seeing where I was conscious. And if anything, I almost feel like I snapped into consciousness in the middle of the movie when, out of the blue, he's fighting Nuclear Man on the moon, and Nuclear Man pounds him into the ground. And my 4-year-old brain understood and was already correlating that if someone is buried, that means someone is dead. So I began to cry really hard in the theater, and I turned to my mom and I said, Superman's dead. And I remember then when he eventually came out of the ground and you heard the Superman music and he lifted up the American flag and flew towards Earth to save the day. Like that was the moment where I felt like, oh, this is everything. I love superheroes. I love movies. I like it. It's single in that moment. A love of film and of superheroes and specifically of Superman was born on that afternoon in 1987.
That is awesome. And the way you describe that moment, it's so poetic. Like I mean, when everybody that knows who the fanboy is and that knows the Avengers and what you're about knows that whenever you start talking superheroes, or at least Superman, you go on this wave of
It's
just pure emotion,
my
and
happy place.
it is a
Yeah.
happy place, and it's beautiful because when we look at superhero mediums or art or anything like that, even if it's comic books, there's something about it. It's like when you watch a movie or a show or an animation, is that it's that amalgamation of all those great things. There's a superhero theme, there is that heroic moment, that heroic feat, that there's something that just connects with us. Similar to when I started reading The Flash. And there's this moment where he just saves a whole airplane full of people, and this was just me in comic book form. I was reading this comic book in the New 52. He vibrates, goes into the this airplane, and he vibrates the entire airplane and phases right through a bridge to land it on water. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
nobody can do this like him. He did something so unique, and he was heroic, and you can see that he just got knocked out because was so tired after this heroic feat. There's something that just inspires us, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's just amazing. But this is awesome. So this changed your life. This was the moment that sparked this lifelong love of superheroes and movies
Yeah. I
and this
mean,
unity of this.
yeah, in general, for me, the idea of someone who would step out of themselves to come help me, someone who would go out of their way to come save someone else, no matter the peril it puts them in, the idea of that sort of selfless heroism has always spoken to me very, very profoundly. And yeah, and are just a great metaphor for that idea of having a friend, of having someone who could step in when everything seems like it's awful and give you that smile and give you that support and kind of, put you in a better place. That sort of stuff was very important to me as a kid, and that like fantasy sort of wish fulfillment stuff. And yeah, heroes have always held a special place for me because of that.
And that's why we picked this particular anime because we I those that don't know, disclaimer, Mary Francisco is actually my cousin. So I have been stuck with him for almost the entirety of my life.
Ah,
but
I'm sorry to
but
hear that.
yeah, right. But we have shared this love of heroes, and I think we're that's why we're very keen to each other and to talk
Uh-huh.
and to I don't know, talk philosophy of heroes and all that stuff because
Yes.
that's what drives our fandom and everything.
Oh yeah.
Um, Now, before you watch My Hero Academia, have you ever watched any kind of anime before? Because I know DC has an animation, and you've been dabbling more into that as the years come back, especially with us
Yeah.
screaming at you to watch DC animation
Yeah.
because you get recommendations everywhere. Uh,
Yes.
do you remember a time when you probably saw any kind of anime movie or anime
See, it's
show?
it's it's extremely hazy, but in like I want to say 89, that my dad would give me VHS tapes of cartoons and movies he thought I would like little like video mixtapes that were really cool of things he would find because my parents were divorced.
Right.
And one of the ways he would try to sort of connect with me and make sure that our relationship stayed close is that throughout the week he would record things for me, be it the Super Mario Super Show or a random
That's
like
awesome.
classic Jerry Lewis movie that he thought I might like. And I've saved those videos and they're very special to me. And for some reason, on one of them, he recorded this anime thing, which to me was very sort of left field. I wish I knew what it was, and I need to find the VHS. And like I've actually, as part of this discovery of My Hero Academia and thinking back to my first experience, I'm like, I should find out what that was because I still remember certain key imagery from it. Because anime is very unique. It has its very own style, and it's a very different way of telling a story. The way they present the story is so different, so it stays with you. So
Hmm.
I want to find out what that was, but honestly, aside from that one random bit of anime something that was on a VHS tape that I saw almost 30 years ago, honestly, My Hero Academia, seeing it for this episode that we're recording now, was my first real anime as an adult and in nearly
Wow.
30 years. Yeah.
Isaac, what do you say to that? The fact that we actually we have thrust him into this maddening rabbit hole.
Yeah,
What do you say about this, Isaac? To
Better late than never.
better late than never. Yeah.
I mean,
like
you,
Isaac is a man of few words tonight. I like it. He just chimes in.
I just find it so funny. I recommend this series first to Michael. Then I recommend it, and he loves it. Then I recommend it to Katie. She loves it, and now I recommend it to you. And here we are talking about it.
Apparently, My Hero Academia is just it's the easiest way to get people into anime. It's just so good.
it is. It is
Yeah.
just so good. And for the sake of this episode, now that we're gonna jump in, we talked about watching episodes 1 through 4,
Yeah.
which I think is a great starting point.
Yeah.
Because this particular show is one of those shows of any kind of medium that has a perfect pilot. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
pilot just pretty much says so much of what the identity, what this show is about.
Yeah.
That you're either hooked or you're not. And
Yeah.
I think 80% of people that watch this are hooked. It is just so good. I personally, every time I see these first 2 episodes, I still tear up because it's so it resonates with me in such a way, because it makes me feel like, wow, that could be me if I was in that world. That could
Oh,
be,
yeah.
it's just so powerful.
Yep.
But My Hero Academia, it's been an anime. It's been a manga, I think, for the last, Isaac, correct me if I'm wrong, probably the last 6-7 years, if not a little bit longer. It's been in anime format for the last 3 to 4 to 5 years.
You mean
And ever since it came out, it's taken the world by storm because it's such a fresh take on superheroes. It falls under this standard genre of anime called shonen, which is considered like high school anime. That's pretty much like that particular genre of anime. But it's such a very unique take, and everything feels fresh. It feels unique, especially the way it explores its ideas. Because I think one of the biggest factors that for me is a draw of the show is that instead of focusing on the someone with powers being special, it focuses on how someone without can still be special.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's a very great take on this. And not only that, the storytelling is just so tight, and the characters feel real, feel palpable. It feels like a Hollywood, well done superhero drama. That it actually surprises anyone that looks at it. And I think the funny thing is, Mario, the reason we picked this for you, apart from the fact that we think you like superheroes, it's
What gave it
because
away?
yeah, right. This is one of those animes that is a great example of high-end anime
Yeah.
because of the way it treats story, the way it treats its characters, the way it does all its world building.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about this. For those that are going to start listening to the conversation, we're going to start talking about My Hero Academia. We're really, we actually gave Barry the homework to watch episodes 1 through 4 of the first season.
Yes.
And we're pretty much going to be talking about these episodes here and there, little moments, characters in specific, and just be all over the place. But at least you have an idea where we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
Mario, you put this on. What was your first impression? What did you have any idea what you're getting into?
I had no idea what I was getting into, but I remember feeling right away that I liked that it hit the ground running. Like it kind of started in the middle of a situation.
Right.
Where he's there trying to defend that kid, and right away it gives the story this immediacy, and I was instantly sort of gripped to see this kid trying to help, and then I don't think it worked out, but he went to try to help anyway, even though he was up against these. Yeah, that's the thing too. I always say that like a project has to establish its rules. And right away, coming in as an outsider, I'm trying to figure out, well, what kind of world is this? So now it's like, oh, okay, it's about a kid and he's defending another kid. Interesting. He seems to be a heroic kid. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, there are these bullies, but wait, they're not regular bullies. Now their hands have morphed and now they have superpowers. Oh, okay, so it's that kind of thing. They have regular, they have abilities, and the main kid doesn't seem surprised by that. So this must be a world where this is normal. I'm just kind of like taking it all in, trying to understand. But thankfully, it all unfolds very sort of organically in a way. They find a way to very efficiently establish what kind of a world this is in a very short amount of time.
Right.
And I was sucked in right away.
Yeah, I find that one of the most successful things that this world does, and this particular anime does very well, and most is that everything is very, very intrinsically from that main character's Izugo Midoriya's point of view, to the point that you're with him in his inner monologue.
Absolutely, it's very
you're
perspective driven.
Right. And I like the fact that most of the episodes start, at least in the first season, start with that little breakdown of, well, there was just one day a baby came out and he was shining. And then everybody started having powers. And then it talks about how this is a world that thrives on this development of human evolution, where quirks is what they call it, are normal. Everybody has a quirk, has something that makes them more than your average human, and how he falls in this equation. Did you find it hilarious when he finds out that as a kid he is quirkless?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't find it hilarious. I found it sad when they were explaining to him that, like, yeah, that's all he ever wanted, but it's not in the cards. And they show the thing with the joint in his toe, which was random, by the way, but whatever.
Right.
We went with it.
Yes.
And yeah, no, it was really sad because of the way his mother reacted, and he's like, that's not what I needed to hear.
Right.
To me, it was all very sort of tragic that he, here's this kid, this is all he wants in the world is to help and to be a hero to others selflessly, not for pride or fame or fortune, but because he just has to help. He's part of the 20% that doesn't have a quirk. Right away I'm like, oh, this is an underdog character, and I can relate to this. I want to see how, what is his arc? Where are we going with this? I was instantly very drawn in by the idea of how sad it is, and this is all he wants, but it looks like it's going to be virtually impossible for him to attain it.
I think you're spot on there, actually, because I felt the same way when I first read it, and especially when I first saw it, because that is the whole scene when he get the knowledge that he is quirkless.
Yeah,
it's just heartbreaking.
It's awful. But it's also a testament to what we're learning about the character right away, that he doesn't really give up. You know what I mean? He was ready to still figure out, like, I'm gonna be a hero one way or another, or a quirk will eventually manifest itself. He seemed like he was never going to give up on it. And his mother had been, she was feeling sad and supportive, but she was being very defeated about it. She was basically kind of acting like there is no point in waiting for that anymore, because it's never going to happen. So it was very, it was a very sweet, it was very sad and sweet and powerful scene.
Yes, and I think the reason why I mentioned Larius is because if you've noticed, especially when it talks about these moments that are very emotional, very deep, the way they present it at certain moments, like when they show the scene with the doctor actually just breaking the news, it's very dry.
Yeah.
That you could even consider it if it wasn't because of the emotional connection that we have with the character, especially from the get-go. You would say, like, well, this guy doesn't care about anything. From that perspective, but I get what you're saying as well. That even at that point, that early in, which is probably, I don't know, the first 5 minutes, you have all these emotional hits on different levels that you can watch it from all the different angles. I think the most powerful moment for me also was when you actually see him getting excited to see his hero. Like when he's ready to see the video, because he has to see this video every single time. But how, like you were saying, that even though he heard these news, he ended up, because he has this inward desire to help, to be of use, and be a hero or help other people, he doubles down on the things that he knows he can control.
Yeah.
which is pretty much talk about how ruthless a character is towards his goals.
Yeah.
Tells this is the person that doubles down, and that's why I love him in the sense that when you see him muttering, he's this kind of person
Oh
that
my goodness. I love the muttering. I
yes,
related to the muttering, especially because it's primarily self-loathing. I'm like, that's me. I mutter to myself constantly about how impossible everything is and how unfair everything is and how I'm probably going to screw this up. So, like, every time he did that, I'm like, I know that feeling and I do it daily.
yep, and all the notebooks with all the different analysis and
Yes.
ideas,
Yes.
and and it's how everything is driven by that one dream
That
until
single-minded desire.
yep, until the fateful moment where he is
Yeah.
saved by none other
Then
than
All Might.
All Might.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When you saw All Might for the first time,
Yeah.
is it uncanny how much he resembles a certain other hero?
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear who they were drawing inspiration from. And, clearly they make him a lot more hammy, a lot more cheesy. But in general, this is like a very good caricature of how Superman would be viewed in this sort of like world of extremes. I feel like, in anime and in My Hero Academia, everything is very like extreme. Everything is very sharp and bold. There's not a lot of like in the middle. Everything is extreme.
Right.
And in a world like that, that's how Superman would seem.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they nailed it. It was a lot of fun, kind of getting to hear him and see how he interacted with our hero and all that.
Um, Isaac, when you first saw, because I don't think I've ever asked you this before, Isaac, and since we're rediscovering these first episodes of My Hero, when you first read All Might, because I discovered the anime, you discovered My Hero via manga. When you first read All Might and how he is with people, because I think this is one of those heroes in comparison to all the heroes that we've seen before up to this point that is very vocal in the way that he directs public, in the sense of creating this sense of safety, of urgency that I am here, everything is better. What was your reaction?
When I first saw All Might, the first I thought was, wonder how this character would be perceived if it was made by either Marvel or DC, because that's clearly a caricature of a certain archetype of superhero. But like you said also, you all said also that it's a character that fits perfectly in this type of world. You get to and when you get the grasp of what he's doing, his quote unquote secret that we are probably gonna talk about later, and all that, it makes his character even more interesting, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, like you were saying, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens to All Might and what drives his narrative. But it's interesting how, from the surface, all you see is this super cheesy character that's probably full of himself, but he really is giving us all to save people. But
Yeah.
as the episode goes on, you see how him, just like Midoriya, which is what I love about all the different characters and how they develop them, they're all so very layered. Like all these characters have so many different layers for you to just look beyond the surface. That
Yeah.
makes them so interesting to instantly hook you. We encounter Midoriya is just walking around, reaffirming after being bullied by Bakugo, which is his friend from childhood that has a quirk, but he's kind of like
By the way, can we
um,
talk about that confrontation for a second? Because I found it, kind of, powerful in its own way. It was an interesting sort of commentary
of course,
that the bully character. I'm not going to even attempt to say his name, but the bully
Bakugo.
character, yeah, that guy. He's instantly so like he feels so threatened by what is it, Midoriya? Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So he feels so threatened, and it's so pointless and it's so needless because Midoriya is not trying to compete with him. He's not doing it to try to one up anybody. He just, wants to help people, and this is how you do it. And he wants to go to the best place to learn how to help people. But if you listen to the dialogue from the bully instantly takes it as you're trying to challenge me and you're trying to one up me, and only I can be the best. And it's like right off the bat, like, well, you're doing this for all the wrong reasons. You're doing this for glory. You're doing this because you want to show off and you have this quirk that you're so proud of, but you don't seem to have any interest in actually helping people, to the point where the fact that the fact that he wants to help you, you don't believe, you can't wrap your head around the idea of someone being that selfless, of them just wanting to do something for the sake of the good of it. So he instantly got so defensive and he felt so challenged, and it's so like needless about how petty and insecure these sort of alpha characters can be sometimes.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that, and I think I would like you to chime in also, Isaac, on this, is that Bakugo over the seasons and over the episodes, you find out that he's one of the most interesting characters in the whole show, especially because, of course, as you go in further into the other episodes, you see you kind of see who he really is beyond that really rough exterior. And it all has to do with that idea of insecurity, but you kind of see that he pretty much sees in Midoriya everything that he lacks in terms of how good of a hero he can be. Because he knows he has the power, he knows he has the talent, he knows he has a skill, but there's something about Midoriya's personality that automatically lets him know that he lacks.
Yeah.
And most alpha characters, like you're stating, are like that. They either go full on villain, but what makes Bakugo interesting is that he never crosses that line. Like which probably, if you keep watching the show, hopefully, you'll see where he goes from this point. But yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because it's so funny how you have Midoriya, who is quirkless, be this person that is automatically defined by all this, and then you have him that has this quirk, but he is so far from being even considered something interesting to be a hero that you're like, wow, we should just give this kid the powers. as opposed to the other way around. So yeah, Bakugo and Izuku's relationship and the way it's explored throughout the series is one of the most interesting things of this show. And I think Bakugo is one of the most strongest characters. I heard that was a great way of bringing this relationship to the front, Mario. So thank you for mentioning that. I can't believe I had missed it. Isaac, on your end, when you first saw this dynamic between Bakugo and Izuku, what were your thoughts? How do you see these characters?
Well, my first thought was it was very reminiscent of Naruto and the Sasuke Uchiha, and then I checked out, and it's the artist from Naruto, and it makes so much sense. And the comparison between Naruto and Sasuke, though, is that this dynamic feels so much more fleshed out, so much real, and so dynamic works so much better. It's like the artist saw the blueprints and added on top of that,
right,
the stuff that needs to be filled and all that. Yes.
Right. I like that you bring the Sasuke and Naruto relationship. Naruto is another high school ninja anime, Mario. you maybe have seen pictures somewhere in some comic book shop. Yeah. So but yeah, it has very similar characters. Like everything you see, all these little tropes you see them in this genre of this subgenre of anime, which is called shonen. Which is very famous over there in Japan, of course, because everything's famous in Japan. But yeah, I like the Sasuke and Naruto relationship, and it's all about the one that's talented, but lacks a certain connection to what the ideal is, and then you have the one that has a vision of what the ideal is and has that really innately, but lacks on a certain thing. But how the idea of not talent or not power, but it's all about what's inside that really defines who is the one that's going to be at the end the best hero or the best person,
Yeah.
or the character that we as viewers are going to follow.
Yeah.
Now the twist with going back to All Might, the biggest twist with All Might that of course he saves Izuku because Izuku gets his handy dandy notebook with all these notes after Bakugo tries to burn it. He feels driven again. How it's so powerful how he constantly Izuku's the kind of Midoriya, it's the kind of character that constantly reaffirms himself in his vision and his belief. Like he's such a driven character.
Well,
And
it's funny because of the one moment he's driven and the one moment everything's over. I crack up because I can relate to him with the anxiety. He seems
Mhm.
like one moment everything's great, and then the next is I'm gonna die. Like when he had just a lot of the times when we get to like his extreme sort of inner monologue where like it gets very anime-y and the colors change,
Yep.
and it's like his eyes look like they're crying. Like he has a lot of these moments here where it's like he's extremely everything is feast or famine with this guy. He's all extremes, which is another reason I can relate to
Yep.
him because it's like it's always the best of times or the worst of times. You're either flying high or crashing hard. And I'm like, I know that way of being, and it's exhausting.
It is, and the most awesome thing about it is that also shows his determination.
Yes.
Because when he goes extreme on the good end, he is the hardest worker in the room, which of
Oh
course
yeah,
speaks
absolutely.
which also speaks of us artists. When we have a
Yeah.
vision, when we have something, we just throw ourselves in there.
Yeah. At all
Those that
costs, whatever it takes.
exactly whatever it takes. As I know about Isaac, Isaac goes all in when he plays games. Whenever he writes reviews, he's an amazing writer. Um, right, Isaac, when you get into that moment in that zone, you just write for hours and hours because you have to make this the best possible because it's
Well,
in your hands.
well, I am a perfectionist, so
There you go.
Yeah. So after Izuku is saved from this, I don't know. Let's call him Blobby. I never got the
Sure.
name of that thing that he is attacked by.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah,
he
I don't want to say we're skipping a part though, because I think it's important to note that I think it's wonderful that for our hero, like he claims like his legs and arms are moving by themselves, and clearly they're not. But him running to this kid's aid to help without knowing who he is or what's going on, but just knowing, listen, I was just in this creature's clutches and I know that this is not good and I almost died within seconds. I need to go help. And it's almost like, everyone's questioning me why. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I can't stop myself.
right.
And I think that's just beautiful. It instantly bonded me to the character of this idea of like, it's almost like he's not willingly doing it. There's just something in him
Hmm.
that I'm gonna fly towards this problem and try to solve it, regardless of whether or not I have any actual way to solve it. I love that moment.
Well, and in regards to that moment, what you were saying, what I was actually reminiscing to was the first encounter with the beast. Is
Oh,
this
okay.
right?
Yes.
That builds up to what you're saying, which is the
Yeah.
best moment of the pilot.
Yes.
Um, that when he is saved by All Might for the first time, and he actually
Yes.
has this,
Yes. Yes.
he
Yes.
he clings on him for in some
That
inhuman
was so
way.
funny. Yeah.
Yes, that he's like flying away, and then he's like his face is coming apart because of all the air
Yeah. Oh,
pressure.
wow. Yeah. Just so you know, I watched that with Talia and Sebastian, and they thought that was the funniest thing ever.
Yes. So when they land on the roof, and Izuku Midoriya is brave enough to actually ask his hero this question, because if anybody has an answer to the idea of him being able to be a hero without powers, is him. And when you find out the whole crisis of, that All Might is injured, so he's
Yeah.
not as strong as he used to be. But then when Midoriya asks him if he can be a hero, and when All Might tells Izuku that it's impossible,
Yeah.
when your hero tells you that you can't do it,
Yeah.
What a powerful, heartbreaking moment.
I know it's another time where he's just given that death blow, that awful crushing moment.
Another Doctor Weird Pinky Toe moment, where he finds out that genetically he's not built
Yeah,
for it. But
yeah,
then it is that moment that makes what happens later with is what you described, that when the blob thing gets loose and he
yeah,
starts hurting his friend quote bully Bakugo,
yep,
that his desire to help people, his innate push to be heroic, because that's the big thing, that here in this world, heroes are like these vigilantes for hire. That's the way they plant it. They all it's a hero business where everybody works as a hero. They get paid by the state and all that stuff.
yeah,
Um, but with and pretty much how that is pulling away, making all these new heroes being pulled away from the idea of being heroic, because we know as a for a fact, because we see it every day in our real world, that there's one thing about calling yourself a hero and wanting to help, and there's one thing being truly heroic. There's certain traits, certain ways of doing things
yeah,
that make you stand out. That's why, for example, Superman is so fantastic, because Superman is the hero, because it's not about how powerful he is how he views us and cares for us, be in spite of how powerful he is. He finds a way to interact with us and connect with us as he's saving us to
and
make
put
us
on
better.
that happy face no matter what's going on with him because he knows he needs to be a symbol for hope.
Right, right. Which is pretty much a tagline taken from Superman for All
Oh
Might.
yeah,
Um, and it's that heroic moment that pretty much it saves the main hero All Might from his denial that he couldn't be a hero. But then when he sees this in Midoriya, he goes
yeah,
like, this kid is something else. This
yeah,
kid is something special. I have to show this kid the way. I have to step in.
yeah,
And I think that's the moment where I cry. Like
yeah,
when we see that he is pushed and runs to save his friend, and then All Might steps in and finishes vanquishing the enemy.
yeah,
When All Might in his depowered form, which is hilarious how he just starts bleeding all over,
yeah,
and he walks Midoriya back to his house, when he reveals a secret to his power and tells him, I can give you my power. I can give you the dream that you want because I see what's in your heart. That's the moment that tears me up every single time. When he
yeah.
sees, like, wow, the hero that I've always believed in actually believed in me.
Yep, that's
That
unbelievable.
yes, that is like that's
It's
where I
the
was sold.
ultimate validation. It's everything, it's the
Yep.
perfect way to just yep, it was all for something. It all means something now.
Yep. Isaac, what are your thoughts on how we have an old-fashioned Rocky montage,
It
Rocky training montage on episode 3? Wasn't that awesome?
it fits the moment of what you wanted to do. Like, you make him prepare for the exam because it wouldn't. In terms of pacing, it would be a stupid idea if they have the training being in several episodes, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How'd you like the montage, Mario? Especially when
Oh,
you
I
see
thought
him
it was
on his
great.
swits. Yeah.
I mean, I thought. Listen, I loved everything in these first 4 episodes, and how in general, I felt like the show was getting progressively weirder the more we got into it, and I loved it. But like really kind of messing with the format and really kind of like, with the muttering thing and all the words going around his head and all that sort of stuff, and then the montage was just a lot of fun. And in the fourth episode, at some point, there's like a moment that's like musical that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just, whenever you go into our hero's head and we really start experiencing the world through his sort of warped, over the top fanboy sensibilities, it's just perfect. Because, of course, he kind of thinks like movies, he thinks
Right.
in ways that feel like a movie or a cartoon come to life. and he thinks like me, so I can totally relate. And that's why also in the first episode when they're like, "I know what you are. You're a fanboy." I'm like, "Yes, he is, and so am I." And there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, he's a fanboy for every situation in his life. He's having these intense, melodramatic reactions to everything going on around him. And I just love that. Like it gets weirder as we go. I kind of can't wait to see what comes next.
What I like the most about this whole episode 3 montage with the training and all that stuff is that it pretty much shows you that Midoriya is it shows you how much care they have in developing these characters, especially our main character, because it pretty much goes to show us the viewers that this is a character that's willing to go to whatever lengths. Like the first 2 episodes, to a degree, apart from that heroic moment that defined him to us and to All Might, he was all talk, all notes, but now he is getting down and dirty, and so it pretty much shows you, hey, this particular guy is going to be interesting to follow because he's going to do whatever it takes, and you see him doing whatever it takes, and it's so funny how you actually see the main hero All Might actually admire the kid to the point where he actually allows him to inherit the power. Would you eat a hair, Mario? If it meant inheriting the power of All Might.
I would eat a hair burrito if it meant I could be, All Might or Superman right there.
And you know what? That's the beauty of anime, and I think Isaac can attest to this. That I'm pretty confident he's seen a lot weirder metaphors and moments than the hair thing.
No comments.
But that's the beauty of an anime, is that in the midst of all this quirkiness and weirdness, there is such a true art form in terms of story that keeps everything fresh, makes everything unique. Of course, you have animes that are the same thing over and over again, but then you have an anime like this one that dares to push the envelope in what superhero storytelling could be. And I'm assuming that's probably what draw you more, right, Mario? The fact that you've got these tropes that you've been watching in movies and in shows all your life, and then you have this take, and it still feels like something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because like he's not the most, All Might is not the most predictable, mentor character. He kind of does have things that are kind of out of left field, and he asks things of Midoriya that kind of like eat the hair and here clean this beach, and in general it just he's he's not sometimes you don't know where he's coming from. He's kind of filled with surprises. I kind of like that he's a little unpredictable like that.
Yeah. So the final episode, I believe, episode 4, is the exam episode.
Yes.
The entrance exam. When you saw this kid in this exam going over to take this exam amidst all these other superpowered people, when you saw the powers in action, as we know, he inherited all the powers from All Might by eating a strand of his hair.
Yes.
We don't know what this will happen to him. We automatically assume that he's going to be as superpowered as All Might, or maybe have we were expecting him to unexpectedly bulk up, just like All Might does. And then what we find is that he has the superpowers, he has the strength, but his body can't handle it.
Yeah. It's still, he's young and he's been training very intensely, very quickly, but he's not there yet. But his heart and his will and his desire to do the right thing is there. And that's what I liked about in that moment there where he goes, can we talk about when he makes the save?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, where he defies what the exam asks of him to go and help someone. And in that moment where, again, it looks completely insurmountable, he's basically running towards Metallo, and he has no powers, and he's not feeling any kind of special anything. But in his moment of need, when he's about to, put it all on the line and sacrifice his life trying to defend this girl, that little tiny bit of him that's already pretty special starts to kind of rip through, and they show that kind of like red sort of like vein that's kind of cutting through him that seems to be letting the power course through him a little bit. And it was just great to watch the judges all kind of perk up while watching this happen, and to see them realize, like, yeah, he's not doing what the quote unquote main goal of the test is, but what he is doing is the very definition of why we're doing this to begin with, which is to find heroes. And it's a great moment.
And the beauty about it all is, like you said, it wasn't what the instructions were, but it's what a hero would do. So it's
exactly.
like he is the one that's doing that unique thing innately, that everybody else is just focusing on that goal. Oh, just destroy the robots or just do this. And he was trying to do his best. He really was failing, like really, really bad.
Really failing. And it's almost like those other ones didn't have the instinct. Like they saw, like they may have noticed it, but there was no part of their psyche that was like, you know what? This is more important than the test. That person is hurt and I need to help them. Most people were too focused on their single-minded goal. And for him, once he saw that, like, he had to stop what he was doing, even at his own peril. Here's this exam he's been waiting pretty much all his life for. All he wants to do is go to this school. But right now, someone is in need, and she helped him before, and he felt a kinship to her, and he had to do what was right. I mean, who's a more nobler protagonist than someone like that?
Mm-hmm. Which is why we love this character.
Yes.
Did you find, and then in true anime fashion, when he does the save, Isaac, when you read that panel that he makes a save, he destroys the robot, but all his bones were broken. How did you react to that?
The reaction when you watch a movie and yes, oh, that gotta hurt. How you watch John Wick and he has the fight scenes and it was sort of like that, but it just the inner mental collapse, because doing something like that, knowing that you don't know how it would hurt you in terms of physical damage, it's a true hero. So sort of, I know that you're not the biggest fan of the movie, Mario, but sort of like how Bruce Wayne runs towards the
I mean, that's the best part of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, when he's running towards the crumbling buildings, but he has to help people.
Sort of like that, which that scene is where we're reminiscent from, and it just
That's what makes a great hero. It's not about how much they beat up the villains. It's about how many lives they save. It's about, how do they minimize the destruction? How do they maximize the amount of people who walk away from this? That's, to me, is what makes a great hero. It's not necessarily, in some of these movies, it seems like as long as they're punching bad guys, then they are heroes. And I'm like, no, you need more than that to be a hero.
Yep. If you focus, and let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice at certain points are very particular. I don't want to say touchy subject, but a subject close to your chest, Mario.
Yes.
And it's interesting how you mentioned that, because this particular show highlights what it is to be a hero. What is the true meaning of that in a world where it's been trivialized because everybody has powers. So like this person that didn't have powers, that had the desire, is that focal point to go back to the roots of what a hero is. And when you go to movies like Dawn of Justice, for example, and you have that scene, is that Batman is Batman not because of his gadgets. He's Batman is Batman not because of the cowl.
Exactly.
Batman is Batman because Bruce Wayne cares for the people of Gotham.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne cares for the poor. He cares for those that are weak, for those that can't defend themselves.
Yep.
That's why he puts that cowl on every single night. And interestingly enough, I think that during this period of time, he was retired as Batman, right? In that
Yeah.
first part of, I think so because
No, I don't think he was retired. Either way.
I think oh, that's a different story. But I think for some reason the way they put
Yeah.
it in Dawn of Justice, like he comes back to the streets of Gotham, does whatever he does after what happens with Superman. But that's
Okay. I hadn't
um
quite heard that interpretation before, but okay.
now when it
Nice.
comes to Man of Steel, we've always talked about the destruction of Metropolis and how the reason why that scene misses the point of who Superman is because there's no sense of urgency towards saving people. And
Yep.
to this day, whenever I read comic books, especially Justice League titles or Superman, that's the first thing they talk about. Like
Yeah.
whenever there's an attack, whenever there's a big thing, the first thing you think about is we got to move this somewhere else. We got to
Yeah.
find a way to move this away from
Yes,
this
indeed.
civilized city. And because we actually, and it's funny because as a producer, I would consider like I want my moviegoers to enjoy the spectacle, to enjoy
Yeah.
the battle, but if we can't get behind the hero, how will we enjoy the battle?
Yeah.
I mean, we want to see our hero kick ass. Everybody wants to.
Of course.
But if we're too worried about the fact that he's letting people die because he wants to kick ass, then that's not a hero that anyone wants to get behind it.
Like one moment that I always point to in that film that just kind of perfectly captures what was wrong with the depiction of Superman in that third act is they're fighting on the streets. There are civilians nearby cowering behind cars and fire hydrants. You know, that the audience is made very aware of the fact that Metropolis is still alive and there's people around and Superman is here, right? And Zod throws an oil tanker towards
yeah.
Superman. And rather than try to like stop the oil tanker, because obviously it's going to make a huge explosion and there's people all over the place, he just kind of leapfrogs over it like a generic action hero would. And then it nonchalantly explodes into the building behind him. And now there's cars raining out of the sky, crashing onto the ground. And yes, it's a very, very dramatic visual. You can see how, like, if you were storyboarding it, oh, yeah, wouldn't it be cool to have these two demigods having a boxing match in the middle of the street as cars rain down from the sky? Yeah, it makes for a very interesting visual. But is that Superman? Is Superman the guy who just goes, all right, never mind the fact that this thing is clearly going to explode and it's going to create a whole situation here, whereas I should try to stop it? You know, instead he just opts to, I'm going to just dramatically hover over it and just stare at you and start punching you in the face, and we're going to have this like stoic, generic action hero battle instead of showing Superman saving people. You know, it's one of those areas where I always kind of point to about like this is where the filmmaker shows you what his priorities are. And his priority is not depicting Superman as the savior. It's trying to make Superman seem like a badass. And I've never really needed to think of Superman as a badass. I don't know that that's a characteristic that I associate with Superman. Let Batman be the badass of the two of them. I want to see a Kal-El who is consumed with saving people. Kind of like our lead here in My Hero Academia, just consumed by it. That's my Clark.
As someone that really loves Man of Steel, I actually have to agree with you. There's some moments like that that irks me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Although the how should I put it? Reunite scene with Lewis when you think all is done. It irritates me more than that.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that's another one. You know, here we are in this smoldering crater of probably a mile, a mile wide circumference of Metropolis is gone. It's just rubble and ash. And it totally evokes 9/11 and the ash in the air, and it's a terrible tragedy. And instead here we have Clark and Lois kissing, and she says, "Oh, it's all downhill from the first kiss," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I think that's only if you're human." Like, oh, so we're making jokes, we're hanging out, we're kissing our girlfriend, as thousands upon thousands of people just died. It's like you don't understand this character. You just don't get it. If that's what you think Superman is, then I don't think you really understand the person that you're writing about. The person or whatever. The person that this film is about, you seem to fundamentally misunderstand them if you think that they're going to kiss their girlfriend and make a quip in the middle of what is the equivalent of like three 9/11, three 9/11s that just occurred in downtown Metropolis.
I mean, it is Amy Adams we're talking about, but
Well,
have to have some restraint.
yeah, I mean, I probably want to sneak in a kiss too, I guess, if you put it that way.
And you know what's funny? And it even you okay, brother?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, can I just slip in my favorite thing too? Because see, just to kind of go back to I saw Superman 4 with my mother,
Yeah.
and we have we have a tradition where whenever there's a Superman movie, we go see it together. And unfortunately, there haven't been a lot of Superman movies since 1987, so we saw Superman Returns a bunch, and then I took her to see Man of Steel, and I'll never forget in the scene there with the smoldering rubble right before the kiss, at some point, like when Perry and Lombardi and Jenny come out, and she goes, "He saved us." My mom just turns to me. She goes, "What's left?" I mean, you look how
Right.
the city is just ash and rubble. Like, oh yeah,
Right.
he saved us. Like, what? You know what I mean? It's just like you could tell that the script probably thought that this scene was going to play out differently. That's the thing people don't, fully understand. That in a script, an action sequence like that may just be two sentences. It may just say, this happened, and then Zod and Clark fight Superman fight throughout Metropolis. And it was Snyder's decision to take whatever, minimalistic description was there and turned it into 45 minutes of skyscrapers crashing into the ground and explosions. So he's the one who embellished it to that level. In a third act that had been more carefully constructed, when Jenny says the very same line, "He saved us," it might have actually felt like, yes, he saved us. But unfortunately, the scene wasn't constructed in such a way where it seems like he even gave a crap about saving anyone. For all we know, he's just trying to beat up Zod. And that's the issue with him killing Zod. Because him killing Zod only really matters if we thought he might not do it, if we thought that he was trying to find every way to not kill him, then it definitely feels powerful when he makes the decision to do it. But for all we know, he arrives and he's just beating the holy hell out of this guy. And with every blow, he's probably trying to kill him for all I know. You haven't established who this Clark is to me yet. I don't know that he's trying to find a diplomatic way to resolve this. I don't know that he's trying to make sure that he really is not an orphan and that some Kryptonians can survive and we can coexist. I know nothing about any of this internal struggle. I just see stoic Henry Cavill beating the crap out of Michael Shannon, and I'm just wondering, when is this going to be over?
Agreed, 100%.
Sorry,
I agree 100.
Sometimes.
No, I agree 100%. And it's one of those things that it's all about what you pay attention, because everything you said, Mario, what I like to pick out of there and highlight is the fact that you're not saying that the destruction was a problem.
No,
You're not
it's
saying that the battle was a problem. It's the fact that the character that you want us to get behind
Yeah.
of doesn't show that these things affected him.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you kind of see more of this and I know that this is now probably gonna. I don't think any Snyder or release the Snyder Cut guys. I have no issues with them. I don't think they'll listen to this, but I'm gonna say this. That is one of the highlights of Justice League.
Yeah.
That when he's in the farm with Lois, and he's like kind of taking in the fact that he's alive. He can't help but know that he has to go help. Like he
Yeah.
has, like he wants to stay. He actually says to Lois, like, "Hey, I want to stay here," but he kind of like looks far up in the air. He's hearing the chaos in
He
this.
knows, yeah, he's needed.
He, yeah, he knows he's needed, and he's like, "I have to come back. I have to go. Like, I
Yeah.
have to do this." There's none of that here. There's
Yeah.
none of that, and it's funny because it's all the third act. Because when you go to Man of Steel, I can understand all the craziness that happens to Smallville because Clark has never met
Yeah.
anyone like him before.
Yeah, of
Like this is the
course.
first time that he fights someone that is Kryptonian or has abilities similar to him. So he doesn't know
Quirks.
how to control. Yes, he doesn't know how to control all this collateral damage, but he kind of tries, and you kind of
Yeah.
see him trying to help the people of his hometown. But when he gets to Metropolis and everything is like escalated to 11, there's none of that,
There's none of
which
that.
is really sad.
And that's the
Um,
thing. And you could have kept like 90% of that battle, but mix in shots of him like doing little miniature saves along the way. Somebody falls off a building that's been structurally compromised, and he catches that person, or someone's pinned under a car and he goes really quickly to get them out from under it, while Zod is trying to get his bearings. Remember, Zod is trying to come to grips with his own abilities too. He hasn't been under the sun for all this time. He doesn't know it yet. So what he can be doing is he can be starting fires and creating situations that keep
right,
Superman busy and occupied while he's trying to figure out, how do I fly? How do I do this? Show me the brilliant tactician General Zod who's doing this, and he's trying to basically run out the clock and tire Kal-El out while he figures out how to use these abilities. Then you can have this amazing third act where there's, freaking Goku and what's his name fighting in the air. Like, show me all of the anime. See, I don't know anything about it, but I know people talk about Dragon Ball Z. So you give me the Dragon Ball Z battle in the sky.
right,
Give me
right.
all of that chaos, but show me a Superman who's trying to save lives, who's trying to not kill Zod, and show me a Zod who's actively manipulating and raising the stakes to the point now where you've created a collision course where we know at the end of this, Clark is going to have to make the toughest decision he's ever made, and he's going to have to face this once and for all. Does he kill this guy? Make that the central drama of the piece. Instead, there was no drama. It was just a bunch of punching and knocking each other around, and it was like, you fundamentally miss what a third act like this should be, with Superman at its center, if all you're making it is about the action and the explosions and the beating up of each other. That's not a Superman movie.
Right.
Find some other hero to do that with. This is not the character to do that with.
And that's why, for example, that I think that's why, and Isaac, I think you would agree. That's what makes My Hero Academia so special, is because it finds a way to balance all the things that a true fanboy cares about.
Yeah.
We care about the battles, we care about the action, and trust me, Mary, when I tell you, if you keep watching this show little by little,
I
and you get
might.
caught up, it's the action just gets a lot better,
Yeah.
but it never loses its connection to what draws you in. Like
Oh,
it
that's great.
keep it stays very fresh. It keeps its roots, and it grabs onto its roots of what makes the show work, and never loses that,
Yeah.
because it's all about those character moments that define why a character makes a certain decision a certain way, and why he favors to be the hero, more than just being this badass or anything like that.
And
Um,
and and how sad is it that after he saves the girl in the exam,
mhm.
he's actually down on himself because he's thinking more about, the way the exam would have graded him, based on the parameters he thought it was.
Mhm.
Totally missing the fact that what you just did was huge, and that you're trying to be a hero, and you just did the noblest thing ever. You just saved someone's life. And here he is feeling crappy about it. I mean, it goes to show you that, like, with self-loathing and insecurity and all that stuff, it's an animal, it's a beast. because by every conceivable metric, you could be doing everything right and still feel bad about yourself. Yeah, that's what I like about the metaphors of My Hero Academia too. I feel like it talks about living with self-loathing and self-doubt, where no matter what you do or what you accomplish, you still feel like a failure. That stuff really speaks to me. And I appreciated in the episode how like the judges get it. The judges give him all the points and credit he deserves for doing that. So in other words, in the big picture, he's going to get what's coming to him because he's doing the right thing. But in the immediate, he's only focusing on like these very immediate, the feelings of my classmates think that I'm a failure and I'm letting down All Might, and I'm worried about these very like these temporary little emotions, missing the fact that in the big picture, I just did something immense. I just saved someone's life, and I discovered that All Might's powers are starting to work within me. And yes, there's work to do, but I'm on the path to becoming a hero. And somehow he loses all that because the self-loathing and the doubt and the mutter, that little, that angry, that self-doubt that just lives in his mind won't let him appreciate the big picture right now. And it just speaks to me about how I feel like we do that a lot. I find I get very stressed out about things that don't really matter. When if I were to take a step back and look at the things that I am accomplishing and the things that I am doing, it's like, in the long run, I'm probably going to be pretty proud of the run I had here. But right now, for some reason, I can't help but feel like I'm a giant flop. So anyway, this show really spoke to me on a lot of different levels. And I may very well continue past episode 4 now because I'm kind of like, I'm picking up what they're laying down, and I'm enjoying it.
I'm really happy to hear that. And before we start wrapping up, and Isaac, you might want to chime in on this too. What you were mentioning also talks about how so good the world building in this show is.
Yeah.
Because pretty much the emotional struggle that he has, a lot of it comes from the society that he lives in, where people with quirks are considered the normal.
Yeah.
And he is below that bar, at least in the beginning. Or even when he acquires the quirk of a One for All, which is the power that he acquires from All Might, he still sees himself as that person that was quirkless because in his mind, he understands that becoming a hero, it's more than the power. It's more than the recognition, or the recognition is part of it, but there's more things that go into being considered a hero and being able to help people. And that's what he struggles with, because this society's view, there's a villain coming on, and I know you're probably going to see it, but I'm just going to say the word Stain, so I know Isaac knows what I'm talking about. It's one of those characters that handles this idea head on in a very dark way, because it's how this idea of society, like for example, in our society, for example, nowadays, there's that idea that everybody's special in their own way, but then those that don't have a certain ability or talent or something are not considered special, or the idea that some people are more special than others, and how there's everything is all about not I think I'm lost my train of thought. Not marginalizing people, and being all inclusive, but not valuing the people for what they are, not for what they do. And people are seen by what they can do, not by who they are as people, as human beings. Like the idea of a human being is not even nowadays, a lot of times, is not even considered as something valuable. Is what you can do for me, what you can do for this person, and that's kind of the struggle that Midoriya has, because in a world that's run on quirks and powers, he is someone that's useless to society. So it's him trying to find his way to understand, and showing other people that beyond what the powers that he had, he is valued. He has value, and how he learns as a person to have value in himself. So it's a great theme and a great thing to explore in this show. And There's so many things this show does well, and I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, Mario, I'm really happy that you saying that you might continue because me and Isaac can both tell you this show just keeps getting better and better and better and better. It doesn't stop. It is so good.
Nice. I believe
And,
it.
and you have time to catch up because Isaac, I believe season 4 doesn't come out till October.
I think it was October or November. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have the date on top of my head.
So don't worry, Mario, you got 3 to 4 months to watch the other 60
I
episodes.
like it.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm down.
And also, I think it's the thing you mentioned is quite fitting because when you see the look on his face when you see that hologram when
Yeah.
All Might is talking about him, and his surprise when he sees I'm the girl. I can't even pronounce her name. Uraraka.
Yeah.
Urahara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uraraka. Thank you. And how she wants to give him some points just so he can get a chance to prove himself some more, just because she wants to thank him because he's saved her life and all that.
Yeah.
And that was a very powerful moment.
That was very powerful, yeah. And especially because I think somewhere in there too, they did a thing that called all the way back to like the first episode. Like they kind of recapped with bookends of like what it felt like early on, thinking he'd never be able to do this, to now feeling like he can. You know, the show's like visual format and the way that they unfold the story and bring you into his mind. It's very, very well done. It's extremely well done how we experience the whole world, the entire story through his perspective. We experience it as him in a lot of ways. Although it's interesting too, though, when they let you hear what other characters are thinking, because there's that other guy who, you know, he was so skeptical. He seems to refuse to believe that Midoriya is doing this out of just selfless care, his selfless desire. The one who's just like, remember where you hear his inner monologue as he's breaking down the fact that, you know, how that save just went and how it helped him on the exam. The guy who like has the super speed, who's just standing there watching, where you could tell he feels like, you know, he doesn't trust that the hero did it just selflessly because he wants to do the right thing. He almost takes it like, oh, he must have known that this was an extra parameter, and he's got all these. You know, it's all like a big, again, it's like a challenge. It's this sense of like, oh, this guy's really sort of mastered how to beat this test, and it's like, no, he didn't. He's just trying to help people. It's that simple. You're overthinking this.
Right.
You know, it's just funny how, like, you know, it's all about perspective. It's all about when you look at things from wherever you are in life, you may get the complete wrong take on it. Based, you know, it's just funny, and it's sad because it's sad that people are so skeptical that someone could just mean well. You know, that there's no ulterior motive. This is not some Machiavellian plan he had to try to, you know, pass this exam by beating and you know, by succeeding at an unknown parameter in the test. This was just him seeing someone needed help and helping them. It's not that complicated, you know. It's just there's a lot of food for thought in this show, and that's why I like it.
And you know what? And we're about to wrap up, but you just said that, and it goes back to the idea of he is just this kid that
Yeah.
saw All Might be a hero and be a symbol of hope, that he became inspired to bring hope to others, which is what heroes do.
Yeah.
Heroes inspire us, or are
Yeah.
supposed to inspire us, for us to try and be the best that we can be for others, for
Yeah.
ourselves and others. And it's so beautiful because that's what drives me to read. Is like, I see him doing these amazing things, and I want to do these amazing things like All Might does. But at the
Yeah.
same time, is that he saves people with a smile. People feel safe. People
Yeah.
feel hopeful. People see the sun come out when he's there. I want to produce this hope to people.
Yeah.
And yes, there's recognition that comes with it and all that, but that's his focus. He
Yeah.
wants to be a symbol of hope, which the beautiful thing is being that he is the one inheriting All Might's power and All Might's condition. He ends up becoming the one to inherit that role, and this complete series is pretty much how we see him become or grow into the symbol of hope, and how it's his focus on this particular goal
But
define him in comparison
yeah.
to other people.
And it's interesting though too that how even All Might cautions him that his quirk is unique in that yes, it gives you all of this great ability to do what's right, but it also comes at a huge physical toll. And
Mm-hmm.
it kind of speaks to the fact that like heroes, when you are selfless, when you do throw yourself into the line of fire, it's going to hurt and you are going to have
Mm-hmm.
to give up a lot. And even in some ways, the whole, like what he was talking about, like with the smile that he puts on, despite everything that's going on with him, it's like that in and of itself is is a drawback in a way for you personally as the hero,
Mm-hmm.
because it means, you have to hide your own suffering and you have to hide your own concern and your own things going on with you because you're thinking about everyone else and not yourself. And that's great and it's selfless and it's the core of being a hero. But even heroes sometimes need something,
Mm-hmm.
and even heroes sometimes just, it's interesting to me that they have to point out that, even when you give your all and you're trying to do the right thing, it's in certain ways it will come back to bite you because it takes a lot out of oneself to be so selfless. You have to
Right.
sacrifice a lot and push a lot of concerns and fears and things to the side in order to do the right thing sometimes. And you could lose yourself sometimes in doing the right thing. Anyway, I can get all philosophical with this stuff for days, but
No, and that's why we brought you because we know you. I don't know. I think you like this stuff.
oh yeah, just a tad.
um, and you make me want to keep talking. But this is the last thing. I promise. Isaac,
Okay.
run time. I probably owe you like 10 gintamas by now. Um, so everything you said is excellent because it also talks about, especially the fact that nobody knows of All Might's injury.
Yeah.
It tells you right then and there,
He
like
has to hide so much about himself and he has the
exactly
shame of feeling weak and dying and feeling he has all this stuff going on that he can't really share with anyone.
right
You know?
until he
It's
meets this
sad
kid.
until he
Yep,
meets this kid. Yeah.
and it's beautiful also because it kind of it's how this show builds this starts the arc off for these characters because you have a hero that sees himself probably going away soon and is doing everything he can to be the best hero he can until he goes.
Yeah.
But he's feeling probably uninspired because he sees his body in decline. But then
Yeah.
he has this kid that he meets that inspires him, that
Sure.
reminds him why he does this, that reminds him why he decided so many years ago to give his all.
Yeah.
It's like it's Logan-esque in that aspect.
yeah.
So there's this show just gets so much right, and
Yeah, and
I'm
that's
really
the thing though,
happy that
because
exists.
well, I'm glad you said that though, because yes, the show does definitely adapt some classic tropes. There's a familiarity to it, which is
Hmm.
probably why so many people gravitate towards it. Because in certain ways, we know where certain things are going, and we understand these tropes, and we know all of this stuff already. But it's all about the presentation. It's about the
Correct.
way that they do it, and the way that they do it is just vivid and exciting and well executed. And you know what? I can deal with a little familiarity as long as the ride is wonderful. And so far, the ride is very wonderful.
Yeah, the visual storytelling in this show is ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
set just by showing you certain things, you learn so much, and they just put you in that world that you just don't want to leave.
Yep.
Um, I think I can, Isaac. I know I talk too much, and I always say it, and you just laugh in your corner. But I think it's fair to say, Mario,
Yeah.
thank you for coming in, bro.
Oh, yeah. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of
And we
course.
should do this again sometime. What do you say we do on after I check out a little One Punch Man?
Ooh, that's gonna
Indeed.
be a completely different world, by the way.
I know. I
And
can't
I
wait.
really and I can't wait. Have you seen a trailer for it at least or something?
No, I just know that One Punch Man is apparently an anime cartoon. That is that is the bulk of my that is all of the knowledge I have.
Well,
One
Isaac.
Punch Man is an anime that exists somehow, and then I will watch it.
So Isaac, how about we do this? Since I know you've seen some of it, right? You know what it is, I think. Um, if you were to describe to Mario, like in one word or two words, what One Punch Man is, what would you tell him?
A, sh- uh, um, a show about the protagonist that had lost he sort of have lost himself, so to speak. He
Hmm.
doesn't know where he is in his life. Would that be a good way to
I mean,
describe?
yes, that sounds like we're gonna get into another deep show. I like it. Let's do it. And all
Yeah.
he has in his pocket is one punch. I assume that's what it's about. It's a guy who just has one punch
Yeah, he only
left.
has one hand, one punch, and no hair.
And he's like, and the whole show is him finding that one person who deserves that one punch. And it's almost like, it's a lot of trial and error. Is this the one who I'm going to punch? And 7 seasons in, and he hasn't found the person he's going to punch yet. That's what I assume the show's about. So
Okay,
if it's anything less than that, I'll be very disappointed.
all I'm gonna say is there was no need to give it a Martin Scorsese twist, by the way.
Well, just so you know, Brandon, when I see you next, I'm going to punch you, and that'll be the end of the show.
Well,
All right?
be aware, if you become the One Punch Man, you will lose all your hair.
It's already happening anyway. 36 is an old. I'm getting old. All right.
Oh, by the way, happy birthday! It was
Oh
your
yeah,
birthday
thank
just a
you,
week ago.
thank you. Send your toupees in care of Revenge of the Fans. No, I'm kidding. All
So
right. Well, thanks for having me, and we we
thanks.
we, we will definitely do this again sometime.
Oh, we definitely will. Thank you so much for being with us, Mario. I mean, I do want to know how can people find you on social medias? Let's do
Ah,
some plugs.
Over on the Twitter, you could find me at I_am_MFR. You could also find my writings and ravings over at revengeofthefans.com. And I am the host of not one, but two podcasts on Tuesday afternoons when we're actually on schedule. Tuesday afternoons, there's the Revengers podcast, which is the official movie and TV podcast of Revenge of the Fans. And then I have my solo show on Fridays called simply the Fanboy Podcast. But I've been on a little bit of a hiatus because June has just steamrolled its way through my life, and I've had no time to produce any kind of show of any real quality. But I plan on getting back on the horse again in July. So I hope you guys are with me, or you want to come check out one or both of those shows in the month of July.
Awesome, awesome. Definitely will do. Isaac, where can we find you, my brother?
You can find me over at Emblemaniac with a C over at Twitter.
Or
Awesome.
in some Smash Brothers tournaments, destroying people's lives.
The you mock, Isaac, you mock, but it's true. I've seen the tears. Okay.
Oh yeah. Whenever I play with him, I always have a box of Kleenex beside me.
And your inhaler, like just
Yeah.
right there.
It's not fair. I practiced all week for this.
No,
That's awesome. Don't worry. Whenever I actually get a Switch, I'll jump in there. So my name is Brandon Alvarado. You can find me at the Scarlet Fan 52 over on the Twitter. And you can find plenty of my anime or Flash related writings or reviews or whatever madness I come on with, because I am a mad person, at revengeofthefans.com. The best platform for anything geek related and movie related over there. And again, Mario, thanks for being with us. To everybody listening out there, this is not the first time that Mario will be with us. We will continue next week with our celebration of Studio Ghibli. We have episode 11 coming on with Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away, which is the 2001 winner for Best Animated Film in the Academy Awards. We have great stuff coming down the pipeline because we love talking anime with you guys and providing you with awesome recommendations. If there's any manga or anime that you guys want us to cover either in a presents piece on the site or want us to cover here on the podcast, please, please, please DM us on Twitter at Amateur Otaku RTF or send us an email at amateurotakurtf@gmail.com. So from here at Amateur Otaku, from Sweden, and from somewhere in the United States, have it awesome, guys.
Thank you.